In my last video, I was talking about the expansion of the universe and how everything that exists within the triangle, from the beginning of the Big Bang to the expansion, that area is the natural universe. Everything that exists falls within that triangle, right? And I was thinking about that and like how God exists outside that triangle, and how like other mythical beings, whatever, like unicorns, leprechauns, fairies, gnomes, all that kind of stuff that's made up would exist outside the triangle too, because it's just things that are supernatural. Anything that's not natural is supernatural, right? I thought I would go about explaining how you could create a leprechaun, because technically leprechauns are more believable than a supernatural god or deity that can do anything, because you have all these omnis and you say he's infinite and he's everywhere at the same time, he can do anything. Those are really hard things to prove, because it's the most extreme claim you can make, and the more extreme claim, the more extreme evidence you need to explain it, right? But a leprechaun is just like according to the definition here, I'm looking on Merriam-Webster.com, mischievous elf of Irish folklore, usually believed to reveal hiding places of treasure if caught. I always thought the definition was more like an Irish small person who rides down rainbows or lives at the end of a rainbow, maybe. Or if you follow the rainbow, you can find a pot of gold. And there's the movies which say, like, if you have a four-leaf clover, a leprechaun appears and then he'll grant you wishes or something like that. So technically, if you wanted to create a leprechaun, let's say, according to this, the synonyms are brownie, dwarf, elf, fairy, fae, gnome, goblin, gremlin, hobgoblin, kobold, fairy, pixie, puck, sprite, and troll. One of those is dwarf, which we know dwarfs of, like, fantasy dwarfs. But we also have midgets. Midgets are dwarfs. So if you had, like, an Irish midget, you dressed him in the leprechaun clothes, and a little hat. Four-leaf clovers exist, so you could have four-leaf clovers involved, right? And maybe this midget just happens to have this thing where if he runs around and you grab him, he will show you where the nearest thing that he knows his treasure is, like where he keeps his money. Maybe he does that. Maybe he has his money stashed somewhere. And he has this deal, like if you catch him, then he'll show you where it is. He'll give it to you. Maybe he likes to run. Maybe he's like a marathon runner or something. That's like one of the things he brags about is, I have this money. If you catch me, I'll give it to you. Sounds like a leprechaun, right? Not necessarily gold, but maybe, I don't know. Maybe he does have gold. Maybe it's old money from before the 50s, but then we had the gold standard. I don't know. But anyway, rainbows are more of an optical illusion. It's hard to have like a place where you could chase a rainbow down and find the end of it, because it's just more whatever angle you're looking at, a rainbow appears. But there are rainbows that exist pretty much all the time at waterfalls, because water is a constant spray of water and mist in the air. And that's what you have to have the effect of a rainbow. As long as there's light. Of course, at nighttime there's not going to be a rainbow. But if this midget leprechaun from Ireland that does all this stuff with the gold builds a house like at the bottom of a waterfall, or like on the cliff where it's like at the edge of the rainbow, I think you can make a pretty good case that leprechauns exist. If you made one up like that, if you made it meet all the criteria of the definition, you could create leprechauns. And there are books and stories, Grimm's fairy tales about leprechauns that give them a history, a mythology, if you would, like the Bible supposedly gives to God. So leprechauns are way more believable than God beliefs or ideas of God. You also have eyewitness accounts of leprechauns, especially in Mobile, Alabama. Apparently there was one sighted, and there's like a whole bunch of people that saw it. And one guy even has a hand-me-down flute from his grandpa that was like supposed to keep away leprechauns or lure them in or something. It had magical powers, supposedly. One guy drew a sketch. They had pictures of this leprechaun. Somebody saw it and they drew it like a picture of it. Didn't photograph it, but they photographed the tree. This tree exists. It's real. It's a real tree where people saw this leprechaun. So if that's the kind of evidence that you have for God, and it's the same for leprechauns, and it seems like leprechauns are on equal footing. It's also not really crazy to have a horse with one horn sticking out of its head instead of two, because it's still bilaterally symmetrical. Just, we've never seen it before. Having magical powers, on the other hand, that's what makes it really hard to believe. I don't know what else unicorns do. I think sometimes rainbows follow them in their wake. Maybe they can go into space, too. I've seen some of that. But anyway, I was having this crazy argument with this girl I used to go to high school with on Facebook, and it all started because this guy I know posted this picture of an aborted fetus, and apparently that's supposed to make some kind of reason for people to be against abortion. Just seeing an aborted fetus makes you, that gives you the reason right there, because it's gross. Don't do things that are gross. Anyway, we started arguing, and then like we started talking about religion somehow. Of course, it gets turned to that. And we were talking about, like, she was asking me what happens when you die if you don't believe in God and all this stuff. I'm like, well, you're made out of energy and you're made out of matter. You decompose. Your energy goes back into the world. You're decomposing nutrients that come out of your body feed the soil, and the plants, and the plants come out and they make more oxygen. It goes all around this nice circle of life, which is what we observe and we see happen all the time, right? Now, this girl was one of maybe the top student in our class. She was in the top 3 at the very least. And this is like a rural southern Kentucky school, so her response was, if that's what happens, if your nutrients and everything comes out of your body and you become atoms and molecules again, how do they get out of the casket when you're underground? That was her big gotcha. It was like Bill O'Reilly's Tides go in, tides go out. You can't explain that. You're made out of atoms. They're trapped in a vault somewhere. You're cremated. So where do your atoms go if you're cremated? Boom, gotcha. What? How the fuck do you not know what atoms are? You don't know, like, the size of atoms compared to the macro world, and, like, when you burn something, it just converts it into energy. I mean, we had chemistry class, and they even, like, told us about strontium and other metals. Like, if you burn them, they change colors because it's giving off atoms of different, like, molecular composition. They have different flames. You can, like, do spectroscopy on things. This was in my high school, and she was one of the top students. How did she miss that? I don't know. I don't know. I didn't even take really advanced classes. I had like a physics and a chemistry class, but that's about as... I didn't take any AP, math, or English, or history. I'm pretty sure she took all of those, probably. And she was like top 2 or 3 in her class. Maybe even number 1. And I was like in the 30s, I think. Because I just had like a lower grade diploma because I didn't take any advanced classes. And because I kind of flunked geometry one year because I was protesting the Christmas project being religious in nature. And I just really didn't want to... Like, it was the only class where they made you go home and do work. Like, I could just get through my other classes without doing any homework, or I could just do it all in class, so I just really didn't want to do it. It's like saying, this is religious, I'm not going to do it, it's bullshit, you can't fail me for that. But she did. I took an F that semester, but then we had the next geometry test. I got like a 98 and fucked up the curve for everyone else in the class, because I didn't know what grading on a curve meant. Like, when the lowest, you take the highest score, and then you give everybody else whatever you were lower than 100 from. Like, if you get like an 80, then everybody would get plus 20 points because that's like the highest, the lowest score of that. What the fuck does it even mean? I don't even know. It's a curve and it's geometry. I should know it. I did really good in geometry, but I don't know what grade on a curve means or how to explain it. You know what it means. It seems really wrong to do that, because then you're like saying, well, the teacher sucks, because if the smartest student made an 80, then everybody should get those points because the teacher just sucked 20 points worth of teaching that she failed at. So I didn't really see the point of it. Apparently nobody studied for this test, and I got like a 98, so they're like, oh, you get 2 points. 2 points, and didn't study at all. I even got done first. I was like, I'm done with this test, what do I do? Just like, go to the cafeteria and leave everybody alone. It's like, alright, cafeteria time. Oh, I forgot to mention, she did see on my profile on Facebook that I had Harvard down as my college that I went to. And she was saying, oh, I guess you're so smart because you went to Harvard, right? And I'm like, how can you not tell it's a joke? It says I went to Beverly Hills High School and went to Harvard, and now I work at Wendy's working a French fry machine. Does that sound real to you? Does that sound made up? Oh, because she picks and chooses like the Bible, and she just reads what she wants to read, and she ignores the rest. Maybe read the whole thing next time, and you'll maybe get it. How the fuck can you be so stupid? I told her like I didn't even go to college. I just didn't stop learning and reading because high school ended, which is apparently what she did. Oh, also I saw a video today of a baby that was born without a brain. Like, he just had a brain stem, which he's blind and deaf. He can't see anything. He can't think anything. He's gonna have no personality or no thoughts or memories or anything. He's just like basic breathing and blood circulation and reflexes is pretty much all he can do. And I'm thinking, why the hell is this baby still alive? Like, why do they care to keep it alive? I know they'd probably be wrong to kill the baby, but then again, what's the point of like spending all this money on it and keeping him, like, he has to take so many drugs and injections of stuff and like supplements, I guess, to keep him alive? But why? It's like a robot or a doll or something. It's like a living doll person. Which that also takes me back to this thing Spam found on the underbelly of the internet that you don't want to go to. I don't know if this is legit. I think you saw it on 4chan or somewhere. There was a guy in Russia supposedly kidnapping women, cutting off their arms and legs, and then I guess cauterizing their wounds so they would live, and then maybe making them blind and deaf. I think he would play like really loud music and just burst their eardrums and then blind them somehow. And then he would knock their teeth out and put some kind of plastic mold in their mouth, and he would just make sex dolls out of them. But the fucked up part of it, that's fucked up enough, but the most fucked up part of it was he wasn't making living sex dolls out of kidnapped women for himself. He was selling them to other people that are into that. in Russia. That might just be something somebody made up. It sounds unbelievable, like you would have heard about that on the news. Or would you? Because they'd had to bleep out so much of it that nobody would know what they meant, because the news wouldn't be able to say half of that because it's so offensive. Speaking of offensive, what the hell is up with the United States? I tried to go to a YouTube channel for a TV show that's from Australia, the Angry Boys. Angry Boys channel on YouTube is not available in my country. This is America. We invented the fucking internets. How do we not have access to some YouTube channels? This isn't like China, or this isn't Brunei, damn it. We have laws here and stuff. There was also a baby on the internet that was born without a brain. Or no, he had a brain, but part of his skull didn't form, so you could see his brain poking through the top of his head. He was dead. This video has a dead baby on it, and they're like doing some kind of ritual, like putting stuff around him, and it's just a dead baby sitting there with his brain poked out, and they're like filming it. It's pretty offensive, I guess. I guess you need to see it for science reasons, but jeez. And then there was the this kid who had a foot in his brain. A kid had a tumor that was a teratoma, and teratomas can sometimes form limbs because it's like still got the DNA, like kind of like a stem cell or something, I guess, and it makes limbs. And this baby had a foot, and then they found like some more. So they had like a thigh and another foot and part of the buttocks in his brain growing, and they had to like take the tumor out. They resected some feet and some buttocks. He had an ass in his brain. This teratoma, I don't know if it just goes randomly. I guess since that's the bottom of the body, it would start at the bottom. But it could have just made a dick in his brain. He could have really been one of those guys when they say you think with your dick. He could have really been thinking with his dick if he had lived and had a dick in his brain because some tumor grew it. Just got sex on the mind. Really. I got a boner in my fucking brain. Oh, the funny things life does in science. But they called this baby a miracle baby. I was like in the comments, I'm like, well, if only we could all have this miracle of having a foot grow inside of our brain. Wow, such a miracle. I think they meant miracle because it's really rare and it hardly ever happens. It's not really a miracle though. A miracle is something that happens in defiance of known facts. Something that can't possibly happen but does anyway. There's even been cases of parthenogenesis, like somebody having a virgin birth, just like Jesus supposedly was. This was like in the last 2 or 3 years. Somebody in China or somewhere, I think, gave birth to a baby because they had one of their egg cells just starts cloning itself. It's not like when you have a mother and a father and you have n plus n equals 2n. It was like a clone of herself, I guess, like a baby clone of her that was just started fertilizing itself, or like it didn't fertilize it, just started cloning itself. The DNA started replicating and still started mitosis or meiosis or whatever. So even like a virgin birth isn't a miracle anymore. It's just really fucking super rare. One thing I've noticed about the way the people that wrote the Bible created God in Genesis is that they were working backwards. Like science always goes by just the evidence, and you work from the evidence to figure out what happens. Religion works the opposite way. You figure out what happens and you go backwards and try to make it fit the beliefs that somebody wrote down or that you already have. Now what they did was, over the hundreds of thousands of years humans evolved, we evolved this sense of an instinct to know right from wrong. It comes from game theory. It knows that if you do bad things and you live in a group of people or a population, a civilization, a community, bad things are going to happen to you, because if you kill somebody, people are going to see that as a threat and they're going to try to kill you back just to make sure you don't kill anybody else. If you steal things, you're going to be known as a thief, and people are not going to trust you near their things. They're going to like try to keep you out or throw rocks at you or not give you anything because you're a thief. It's so over the years we've learned that if you're nice to people, people will be nice to you back. So God was created sort of as this reason why we have this instinct, because nobody could explain it because they didn't know about evolution then. They said God made us with this inherent knowledge of good and evil. I could see people trying to make a reason why we know right from wrong automatically and try to attribute it to a God. And there's also the part about making people from dust. You know, they had crypts in those days, and they had tombs, and people probably were dug up and just wanted to see what happened to people after they died, see if they disappeared, see what happened to them, you know, right? And you have to explain why when you open up a tomb or a vault or a casket, let's say, and there's dust there and like everything's like deteriorated to bone, where did all the flesh go to? Why is it just like a bunch of dust and dirt left? Because a human being is made out of carbon, for one thing. But they tried to explain it in the Bible by saying God made man out of dust from the earth, you know, and he had to make a woman out of Adam's rib, which really contradicts this whole thing about God being omnipotent, because if he made the whole universe by speaking it into existence, by just saying a word, poof, it just magically appears, why does he all of a sudden need materials? Like he needs to pick up stuff and make stuff out of other things, because that's how they do the Big Bang. They can't explain something coming from nothing except by saying it just magically did it by saying a word. Because they couldn't examine a universe and say, well, what's the dust part of the universe? Where did the universe come from? Because they see human beings, they want to know where human beings come from, and they see dust, and that's where they conclude, oh, God must have used some dust. But they see the universe, and all they see is like this planet. They don't see like the other galaxies. They don't see like stars or what they actually are. So they can't really imagine like what the universe came from. They just assume that it had to come from something. I just wonder what this girl would think that I was arguing with on Facebook if she knew about this Russian guy kidnapping women and making sex dolls out of them, because she seems really sheltered if you don't know what atoms are. And she's one of these people, like I see a lot of Christians and religious people that they take pictures of their whole family wearing all white, and it's kind of like Easter pictures, you know, like it's all Jesus, and it's look like we're all going down to the river to be baptized with our white clothes and show how awesome we all are, and just kind of pisses me off, because I know they're all like helping each other out. People in religions, they all meet up at church, friends of a friend, they give each other jobs, and they don't like atheists, so they don't like electing atheist politicians or giving them jobs, and it's just it's a bunch of bullshit. She's gonna raise all those kids to be just as fucking stupid as she is too. You know what's gonna happen. Anyway, it's my rant for today.